Well, today's the day. The F2 Ultra UV goes on sale, and I just came back from a meeting with a prospect that's looking to order more glass. Now, keep in mind, we have had UV lasers in our business for quite some time now, but the F2 Ultra UV really changes things up because of its simplicity. And yeah, this is what we were talking about today. We were talking about how we could help their business. This is actually a small bar, personalize all of their drinkware to really highlight their brand and really create a statement with their brand. Now that the F2 Ultra UV is going live and you're going to be able to order it and hopefully get it really soon, I wanted to show you some of the projects that we've completed and why UV lasers are my favorite. Now keep in mind, we have lasers that are MOPA, we have fiber, we have diode, we have CO2. And Noel and I, our preference when it comes to even working with all these different type of materials is really UV. So let me show you why we love UV. I'm going to show you some projects, and guess what? We're going to take a closer look at the F2 Ultra UV too. Now, before going into all the products we've engraved and also some of the accessories that come with the F2 Ultra, I wanted to share with you what I consider is probably one of the hottest products right now in the engraving space, especially because of the holidays. And let's face it, when you are dealing with holidays, you're dealing with food. And many of you are taking food to loved ones. And this is a fantastic gift. This is a charcuterie board that I see very popular on Facebook and on Etsy that sells for $35 and has engraving. It is a bamboo board, and I've engraved this with the F2 Ultra UV. It has a handle, right? So that when you have all the goodies inside, you're able to carry it just like this. So I'm going to show you what the quality looks like, but if you are looking to have a hot product for this holiday, this happens to be one of them. Again, $35 is what they're retailing for, personalized and engraved. And again, you'll get incredible engraving with the F2 Ultra UV. Now, before going through all of the engravings that we have here, I wanted to highlight a couple of accessories that are going to be key and essential to your engraving journey when it comes to using the F2 Ultra UV. The first one is this. This is a special riser that is supplied by xTool with your F2 Ultra UV. You may have seen it in some of the ads and maybe even in some of the videos. And what this is used for is for inner glass engraving. You don't need this for normal glass engraving. All you need this for is for, again, the actual inner glass. And this does two things. One, it's a riser that lifts up the glass. And second, it's a position tool that helps the actual laser really align things in the center. Because you don't really have a frame, you're not able to see where the item is going to be before you actually engrave it. This is used to basically determine the coordinates. You'll notice that there's an X and a Y. And basically what it's doing is by putting in this number, and you'll see that there's a little arrow here, you basically indicate where the right corner, in this case the left corner of the glass is, right? Because this is a rectangle that we're dealing with. And it basically has a number here, and this number is 20. When you put this in the software knows that this is the corner, it knows the dimensions of the glass, and it knows what the center is. So it makes it really easy when you're working with glass. And basically if you were to take this piece of glass and you put it right here, this is how it would look, right? So you have your glass, goes in the corner, and you can see that I inner glass engraved my family. We'll take a closer look at that in a couple seconds, but this is what helps. Now, if the glass is larger, right, you could have your glass like this. This will support even round pieces of glass. So this is a hot, I would say, accessory that comes with the F2 Ultra UV. Make sure that you use it because it's super powerful. The other thing I wanted to highlight, and this is something that we put together, because as we've been using the F2 Ultra UV, what we found is that it actually has two lenses. And I'm really nervous when it comes to lenses, right? I get pretty freaked out because lenses are delicate. You don't want to drop a lens, and you don't want to touch a lens and get it all full of fingerprints, because then you're worried about what do you clean it with? How do you clean it? And so this is our UV lens caddy, and basically this is going to carry several things. One, it's going to have your actual extra lens cover, because there's a lens cover that comes with the lens that's installed. You have your cleaning cloth, which is what you use to clean the actual lens, and this is included by xTool. And then what you have right here, check this out, is this lens. And you're going to see this is a big lens, right? Really, really big. This one is the one that you use to install if you want to do inner glass engraving. And it has right here some marks that basically show you about alignment. Now, when I am installing this lens, what I always do, and this is going to be my tip to you, is I always keep the cover on. Because if you grab it and your palm touches the glass, then you'll smudge the glass. That's going to impact your engraving. So when I work with the lens, I work with the lens like this. I work with the lens on, cover on, and then when I insert it, I'll go ahead and do it with this lens cover on so that I'm not putting any smudges here. Now, obviously, before you do that, you're going to take off this inner cover. And what I'll do is just grab the lens like this, lead it in, and then lock it into place. And then this cover will go immediately on the other lens that I remove. So the process is use the cover, because you have an extra cover, and you'll notice that I have the other one that is right here. I take one cover, put it on the lens that's in the machine. I basically twist and remove, because I also don't want to touch that lens. I then remove the back of this cover, and I put it on the lens that I just removed. I remove it from this one, and then I put it, twist and turn, and then I remove this cover. I know that sounds like a lot, and it sounds like a process, but if you want to minimize how much you clean lenses, that's one of the ways that I found that's the easiest. And I have other lasers where I switch lenses, and I kind of use kind of like that dance for each one. Now, it's really easy to put everything inside of the actual lens caddy. Put your lens, you have your cleaning cloth. I also have my extra lens right here, which is the one that I'll use when I am going to be removing the other lens, or I could leave this on the laser. It's up to you, however you choose. And then what I'll do is I'll just slide this in place, and now I have my lens nice and secure. Pretty neat little container. So let's take a look at the other items that we engraved. Now, we're going to leave the glass for last, because glass is great, and glass is what UV is known about, but I also find that many people underestimate the power of a UV laser for non-glass things. First of all, this is a cork coaster that we've engraved, and I just want to show you the difference. So this right here is done on the F1 Ultra. And I want you to notice the kind of like the crispness of all the engraving. And for all intents and purposes, when you look at this, you go like, wow, this is a great engrave. And it actually is a great engrave. But I want you to see the difference with UV. Can you see the difference? Let's go back. All right. What I want you to look for is how dark. I also want you to see how fine the lines are, like the detail, and how crisp they are. We'll switch again. Now look at this one. So everything is nice and crisp. The lines seem to be thinner, and there seems to be a little bit more detail because, again, how defined those lines are, right? So this is a local restaurant that we have, and this, by all means, is a great mark, but this is better. Now, the next thing I wanted to highlight is the cutting ability on wood. And this is an ornament that we cut out, and this was actually for a friend of ours that is also picking up the F2 Ultra UV. And she was actually going to be working on some ornaments for this holiday and has the F2 Ultra UV on order and is postponing her cutting exercise for ornaments because of the quality and how clean this engrave is, or cut this is. So she gave me her cut file, sent it my way, and basically I just want you to see how nice and clean this cut is. This is what, again, the power of a UV laser, because of the dot size being so small. And you can see right there, let's see if we can get that a little bit closer. You can see right there how crisp those cuts are. No charring. This was not cleaned. And I'm going to go into the inside, or on the outside right here. This is the kind of cut that you get. This is the finish. Typically, you would see a black mark all the way around, but there's no black mark here. So you could see it. And then when you look at the actual piece that it was cut from, this is what it was cut from. No burning, no mark anywhere, and you can see the color of the inside. Even when you look at the outside, this is the color of the wood on the outside, right? This piece, which is obviously cut, and then you see the inside. And this is just perfect. We did something else, which is something that Nilda includes with some of her cutting boards, and that's this piece right here. So this is a little for a kitchen, just so that you know what 1 teaspoon is, 1 cup is, especially as you're doing conversion. So it's a little conversion table. And I actually did 2 versions of it. So this was my original burn, right? And then what I did is I wanted to see if I could make it a little bit darker and deeper. And this was my second one. And you'll notice with this one, I do have some of that discoloring, right? So this is the one that I originally did, which was excellent. I wanted to see what would happen if I would go slower and deeper, and there's some cuts, and you can see I could probably get rid of this with a little vinegar. It would look good. So that's another piece to show you. Now, the F2 Ultra UV will also do slate, And one of the things I'm working on is trying to get the brightest white possible. This is good. It's still a little gray for me. So I want to go ahead and continue to tweak and tune to get myself something that is going to be brighter white. So you could do slates as well. The one thing that you could do is you can work on anodized aluminum as well. So these are for dog shelter. We volunteer our time when there's adoption events. And by the way, we have lots of jigs as well, over 400 jigs and several F1, F2 jigs that will work on the F2 Ultra UV. So what you're seeing right here is one of our jigs, and this is our dog tag jig, and all these were engraved using the F2 Ultra UV. And you can see how crisp and clean those are. Pretty fantastic. No issues with this. And as you see, the versatility of a UV crosses all the lasers in the xTool line, because you're seeing a lot of products that you would make with the other lasers. Now this one is the one that I always like showing, because many people will ask me, can a UV create a black mark? Well, UV can actually do two things. It could do color and it could do mark. Now I choose not to do color because I find that color takes too much time. So you can see right here, this is a black, more than a black mark. This is a black engrave, stainless steel. And this is brushed, a high gloss stainless steel, right? So this is a very high polished. And this was done on the F2 Ultra UV. And when you could actually do brushed steel as well, and it comes out beautiful. You get that nice dark mark that you see right there. So if you're asking, can it do metal? The answer is yes. Can you get a black mark for jewelry? Yes, the answer is yes. Now over here, we have one of our display pieces that we use for when we on-site engraving. And this display piece basically has several corks. Some of these corks were done with the F2, the new F2, and then some of them were done with our UV printer, so we do UV printing as well. And this was done with the F2 UV. And I just want you to see the difference there in the engrave. So F2 did a great job, nothing to really say that it didn't do a good job. It did do a great job. But then when you look at the UV is just finer and the UV is darker, right? So that's something, again, that is called out. Now the next thing is standard glass. So we do a lot of coasters. This is a coaster that we did, and you'll notice that it has a really nice frosted look. I did not paint this. Typically, if I'm using a diode laser with paint, I would engrave, and then what I would do is I would put some acrylic paint underneath so that it would pop out. This is all F2 UV, right? Nothing else was done. You can see how nice and crisp that is, and it was engraved on this side, right, underneath. So when you touch this side, it's smooth. And typically people are going like, wow, how did you do that? No one really looks at the bottom, but they go right here on the top, right? So that's something you can do. Now the next piece I want to show you is actually glass, and there's a lot of different types of glass you could do. You can do wine glasses, you can do obviously mugs, all these different things. And by the way, you could also work with Yetis with this laser as well. But what we've been doing is we've been taking these shot glasses. They're inexpensive. They're a little bit over about 50 cents. And when we drop off our sample bags, we drop off one of these. It has our logo and our phone number. And then on the back, it basically says custom logo. Now, the neat thing about this, what you're seeing right here, there's no paint. There's no acrylic finish. There's nothing. This is literally how it looks. And when people get this, their eyes go wide open, right? They're looking at how nice this engrave is, and they're not referring to it as engrave, but they immediately start touching it. They go, wow, I can feel it. And they just look at how nice and clean this is. So this is, again, coming from the F2 Ultra UV. And this is just the nature of UV. So we have other UV lasers that will do something like this. And so just wanted to show you the overall quality that you're getting from the F2 Ultra UV, which is pretty awesome too. Now the other thing I'll show you is a shot glass. This is a shot glass done on the F2 Ultra UV again. And you can see, right? So we have jigs for this too. And then the last thing I wanted to show you is kind of like the glass. This is, oh, one more thing. I wanted to show you this. This is that hot item that we were talking about. This is another wood piece. So that engraving that you see inside was done on the F2 Ultra. This actually fits inside, and I was able to align the UV mark with the actual wood, and you can see how good that looks. That's pretty good, right? If not almost, I want to say it's spot on. It's not a circle because it's a spiral, And this is going to be going over to a client. And again, great. This just took minutes. These go for $35, right? And for this holiday, this is a great, great gift, a great promo item, a great thank you. If you're going to someone's house and you're bringing food, you can use this too, right? And you can choose to engrave here or maybe in all the spots if you want. We just do the center, and that is well received. Now, the last piece I'm going to show you is actually inner glass engraving. And I am not an expert yet. We do glass a lot, but not inner glass. So inner glass, we're becoming experts at it slowly but surely. And what I wanted to show you here is this. This is my family. So I have Nilda and my 2 boys. My boys are giants. You know, the dream of any father that is not super tall is to have children that are taller than him. And that is definitely the case here. I'm going to turn on this light, see if we can adjust that so that you guys can see it. I think it's probably better without the light. Let's see. We'll bring this right here. So you can see there it is. Let's switch through each one. All right, I think that's a better one. Now, what I want to do with this is I'm still working through this. And I would say also the software that I'm using from xTool is not final. So there's changes. I am talking with xTool, their technology team and product team almost every night, if not every other night, as we're working through really refining this. They've been showing me some beautiful models, and I'm trying to recreate those models using, you know, my photos. And the bottom line is that it's great to have something you can download and looks great, but you want to be able to make your own and make it look great. So I'm doing that right now. You can see I'm getting really good detail, but I'm still see there's a lot of opportunity. I want this to be fully grayscale, to look just like my family, with a lot of more clarity and detail. And the cool thing about when you're working with glass, as the photo changes or goes around, people kind of follow you. Their eyes kind of keep on following. So you can see how they start looking from the side. This is kind of a cool effect. So which is the front and which is the back, right? But this is the kind of the stuff that you can do. And this is very profitable. Doing something like this is a great profitable solution. It does take time and it does take expertise. This was a 6-minute engrave, right? Inner glass engrave, not terribly bad. But like I said, I'd like to be able to get better quality. I don't really like the detail in the faces. And I'm gonna share with you once I'm able to solve my challenges with glass. But that's what it looks like. Now the F2 Ultra UV is just like the F2 and the F1 Ultra line when it comes to its footprint and just the overall look. One of the things that really sets this laser apart from other lasers that are UV in the space is that it comes with an enclosure. And that is something that's a really important thing for me. And it should be for you, especially if you're gonna do on-site engraving. So the enclosure itself, as you can see here, provides safety and protection around engraving and will prevent any of the beams from leaking. There is no leakage with this. When the laser is going, you see no light on the top or the bottom. And I've seen other lasers that are about to hit the market that have enclosures, and they have anywhere from a 1 finger to 2 finger gap around the laser. And when you're running them, you see light coming through, which is not good. You're not having that with the F2 Ultra UV. The other thing that is unique is the fact that you have those 2 cameras. And the cameras are super precise and also very clear. And we're going to show you that in a couple seconds. The exhaust that it has is also something that's very unique. Now, I have a pre-filter on mine, and that pre-filter is a carbon filter that minimizes the amount of dirt and debris that goes through and kind of extends the life of my AP2 pre-filter. So I have underneath my desk, I have an AP2 that's connected to this, and I have that pre-filter there that kind of handles a lot of the debris. And one of the things that you may underestimate is even though glass, you don't see it smoking, there's dust that comes from the glass. And that is, it will cut. Like if you touch it barehanded, one of the things that I keep with me in my office, so when I'm handling glass that has been just recently worked on, is I have these gloves, these rubberized gloves, because you will feel the micro glass dust will cut into your fingers. You're not gonna bleed, but you can feel some poking, like you're like, wow, this is not comfortable. So I recommend that when you're working with glass, that you have some form of glove so that after you do your cutting, you basically, in this case engraving, that you can protect your hands. That will get extremely dirty, and I'll show a picture of what it looks like when you're running a lot of glass, which we have on this, and it is incredible to understand that. And that's another major point about this laser is because it has an enclosure, that glass has no opportunity to go anywhere because you have this enclosed, and even though that is providing a lot of suction, this creates a barrier for the dust not to go anywhere else. So other lasers that are fully open, you have that risk, and you have to think about ventilation. You have to think about a lot more. This, because it's enclosed, is a really, really good protective solution. Now, you do have an emergency stop, just like you have there. So if something's going wrong, you can push the button and stop it. I have not had any fire issues as I've been using this. And I just wanted to show you that piece of wood that was cut earlier. So you can see it right here. This is that piece of wood. And you can see no scorch marks anywhere, right? And we were going slow. I think we were going 10 millimeters per second when we cut this. So you can see the actual experience. We have jigs for the F2 and F1, and also for that matter, for the entire xTool line. And all of the jigs that we have for the F1, F2 are compatible with the F2 Ultra UV. The only difference is that the engraving area, even though this looks like it's the same size, it really doesn't have the lens or at least the engravable area is just shy of 8 inches. So you'll notice that there's a smaller difference. So for example, if I were to engrave on my F2 Ultra glass, or my F1 Ultra glass with tempera paint, I could have, 4, 6, I think in total, because of how far I can engrave. With the UV, I can only do 4. So I can have 1, 2, 3, 4 in this area, in this quadrant. I can't really go too far in the corners. So that's just something to be aware of. But that's not a huge limitation for me. Again, I can do 4 glasses at the same time, and we can really speed that up with our production. So that's just one thing to be aware of. Jigs are compatible, no problems there. That's available as well, and I highly recommend it. You have also then USB connections here on the side and computer connections. One USB for uploading, one that's right there that you have for again your computer connection, especially if you are controlling with the computer. We do everything Wi-Fi. You have your touch panel right there, and then I just have a little caddy for it that I actually have that's magnetic, and it attaches to the actual F2 Ultra when I'm not using it. Right, I just set it aside. It has also the little push button here, and we'll bring it in frame right there, so you can see that right there, that little button. And that's typically how I activate stuff. And that if I'm going to do a double tap, I do a double tap to get things more engraved, or to repeat the job, that is. So this is what things look like. Let's take a look at how good the camera is, and so you can see that in action. Now let me show you how easy it is to do inner glass, and I'm going to walk you through the steps that I went through in order to create that piece. Now keep in mind that there's a lot that I still need to learn and improve, because the quality is not exactly where I want it to be. But here you can see Nilda and my 2 boys, and this is in that piece of glass. And when I turn it around, you'll notice that it looks like the piece of glass. So there's a couple things that happens when you're setting this up. First, you'll notice that you have, just like with xTool, you have the option to choose the type of material or surface that you're going to be processing. We're processing inner glass. So once you choose that, and again, you only do this when you're working with inner glass. If you're just doing the shot glasses, you don't have to go through this. You use the standard process for it. The next step, and as you go through that workflow, is to identify and install the base that I showed you, right? So that's going to be installed, and you can see it here. Once you have the base installed, and keep in mind you've changed the lens too. Remember, we talked about changing that lens. And make sure that when you change the lens, that the xTool F2 Ultra is off. You don't want it on. It's the very first thing. Make sure it's off. I'm actually to remind myself, I think I'm going to put like a little sticker on the lens cap. So when I grab it, it says make sure F2 Ultra is off before I try to do anything. So you're going to turn it off, and then you're going to come here. Notice that there's some dimensions here. That piece of glass that we were looking at was about, it was 39 millimeters, because I measured it, 39 millimeters. And then it was also 80 millimeters tall, right? And we're going to go ahead and hit next. It's going to ask us to put in the value that's in the corner. And remember, we have that at 20. So we're going to hit that and then hit import to canvas. And then what that will do is it's going to size the glass. Now you haven't seen the glass change in size at all, because that's what it was before. Now the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to recreate this photo. This is a 2.5D photo. And you'll notice that as you're turning the glass around, it's almost like their eyes follow you. So let me go ahead and put it right here. And as I turn around, you can see that the other side, see how it turns around? Really cool. It's kind of weird, but it's very cool. Anyways, I'm going to show you how you create this. And a couple things I'll highlight first is that The version of XES I'm using is a beta version. This is not the version that you have if you have Creative Studio today. These features are not there. They will be there once the F2 Ultra is released, but just so that you know that. The next step is to input a photo. Now I've selected the photo that I'm going to bring in, and I'm just going to scale to fit. I want it to be a size that we can work with. And you'll notice that this is a normal photo. This is the view that we ultimately got, but this was the original photo. Now the process to convert this is pretty straightforward. All you're going to do is choose Edit. You're then going to come into 2D. See this image to 2D. Now you could, if you want, you can do some manipulation here. So let's say, for example, if you want to have a higher contrast, you could do that. If you want to be able to make it a little bit brighter, you can make that. I don't want it to make it brighter, right? And I think I'll reduce the brightness a little bit. So I think that's going to be good right there. And again, I think that's fine. Or you can choose auto adjust. It all depends on, what you're looking for. I'm going to choose 2.5D. And here's the photo. And I'm going to set my resolution, the dot spacing. The lower the dot spacing, the higher the resolution. So I want more dots, which means higher resolution. And then I'm going to leave the depth of 10 millimeters. That's how the back has kind of like that shadowy effect, that there's something behind them and then they show up. And I'm going to get the background removed, knocked out, and I wanted to have whatever texture is applicable. So I think this looks good. So we're going to go ahead and process this, right? And it's going to go through the process, and the AI is going to knock out the background, and it's going to create that 2.5D effect. Now, this is where I would say xTool really, really hit it out of the park, because most applications that I've been working with, and I've been working with several UV glass solutions as of late, no one has an end-to-end process like this. This is something that makes them unique, and it really sets them apart from all other laser inner glass UV that they have it embedded. Most other solutions, you have to go to the third-party application and then download an application or go through a service to have the image made into a 2.5D. And this is all included. And also, like, the cost of this is nothing in comparison to what I've seen from others. So now look at how nice this was cleaned up. And now you could see that effect that we're talking about. You see how it's almost like they can see you on both sides? Pretty crazy, right? So as soon as I hit apply, now I have that photo, and you can see that it's a 2.5D. And here what I could do is I could move it around using these arrows, right? What I could also then do is, if I want to rotate it, there's a rotation tool here that I can choose. I can just bring it down, right? Bring their axis down. And let's say I'm going to make this 90, right? And now you can see what the photo looks like right here. And if I want to move it, maybe adjust it a little bit more because I pulled it too much. Right there. There we go. That's what it looks like. And if I want to make sure that this is in the center of the glass, watch this. This is crazy. And the largest, you hit one button and it's in the center. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. This is how simple it is. Now with the F2 Ultra, you could do leather. There's a lot of different type of materials you can work with. And I just want to show you the wood side of things. And you can see this is the actual conversion chart that I had shown you that cut. And then here I have a Challenger coin that I also showed in a recent live stream. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the desktop really quick and notice how quickly it updated. I have my jig that's been designed to hold all these coins in place is already there. And notice how I'm aligning this. I'm just going to go ahead and put it just like that. And if I want, I can zoom in. You saw this camera is super accurate. I can nudge it up with the arrow keys a little bit over to the right, maybe a little bit lower. I think right there kind of looks like it's in the center. I could cheat also. I could put actually a circle and then knock this in the circle. But there's a couple things I did. Let me show you what my settings are. So for the actual outer border, I have it at 80% power, 300 speed, 800 millimeters or 800 lines per centimeter. For the baby in Daddy's turn, I have it 80 to 100 speed and then 800 lines per centimeter, and then the frequency is at 50. So I did make a change to these, and I did that for a specific reason. So you notice this one's faster, this one's slower. You're going to see the difference in the darkness. It just is crazy dark. So to get this going, I'm just going to hit process, but I have a couple choices too. I can actually do a rectangle alignment to check. I could do an outline, which would be, the outline right there. I could do a polygon, and you can see what the polygon is right here. I'm going to leave it as is. I'm going to go ahead and hit process. I already know this is good. And do I have? Yeah, I have it. And you can see it here. And now I'm going to hit start, and it's going to tell me how long. This is going to take 1 minute and 21 seconds. All right, so I have the laser connected. I have my AP2 running. And now what I'm going to do is just going to press that button I showed you guys earlier. I'm going to let it start. And a couple things that you're going to notice as it's going through is how dark the actual engraving is. And you'll also notice that there's no flame. This is a cold engrave, but it's still engraving. You can see how darker, it's just like almost ink black, the actual daddy's turd is. And remember, I had a different power setting there, or actually speed setting, because I wanted to give that a different feel, but still keep the resolution as crisp and as sharp as I wanted it. And you can see again, look at how every character as it's being drawn out. And I can make this a lot faster. I just felt that this was the best settings for this wood and for this specific project. I got the smoke is being pulled out by the AP2. You can see my pre-filter is doing a really nice job there. It's going to capture that debris before it gets sucked in, and it's going to extend the life of my pre-filter on the AP2. And now all I'm now doing is getting the baby drawn out, right? And then once that's drawn, it's done, right? I think this is going to take a minute. Yeah, 1 minute and 21 seconds. But you can get 1 minute and 21 seconds of quality. Now, I have another jig that I could have used, which is going to be larger, where I could do 4 at a time or 6 at a time. I could do that too. But you can see now, it is absolutely fantastic. Let's go ahead and look at that. I'm going to open this up. And you can see how crazy good this looks. Look how, oh my God, this is just so good. I love UV. And so the actual, yeah, you can see, let's go ahead and bring that on camera right there, see if it gets in focus. That is what we're talking about. I'll probably have to be in the shot as well. That's what we're talking about. You saw it on the other camera. Super dark. I'm not able to get that. There's no borax. It's just great. Now, I wanted to show you kind of like my overall approach when we did that charcuterie board that you saw. What I did was I put the actual board, and you can see it here inside of the camera area. So I took a picture of it. And then I drew a circle around the base, because there's kind of like a lip here, and then there's a flat circular area inside. And what I did is then I took the actual words that I wanted in here. And if you notice, when I try to move it, there's a crosshair telling me that it's in the center of the circle. So that's how I got my alignment to lock in. I did the circle first. I framed it to make sure that it was at the base, and not, there's an optical, I would say, distortion or illusion here because of how there's kind of like this lip that goes in. And then I use this circle to do my alignment. And that's what I do for most things. When I want to get my alignment, I do things by eye sometimes, but I really use, this kind of trick where I draw the circle, line the circle. I even call Nilda over and say, hey, do you think it looks good? She goes like, yeah, all right, we'll go with it. And then I just drop something into place, and then I just align as you see here, and I run it to engrave. You can see my settings here on the side: 80 power, 200 speed, 1 pass, 800 millimeters per second, 50 is the frequency that I chose. Now, one other feature I enabled that I just wanted to show you here in the settings is that I chose outline tracing. And I like doing that because it just adds a very crisp finish to my engraving. It just, a little line draws around it, and also does it with the text and makes things pop. Now, glass is really interesting. You saw the logo on the shot glass, and I wanted to share with you some things about glass that a lot of people aren't talking about. And that is that while you use a piece of paper, and you put the piece of paper on top of the shot glass, and that's something that I do as well, all that's going to do is it's going to give you your top focal point. Glass actually has a different focal point than actually the surface. So if you put a piece of paper on something and you focus on this, it's most likely not going to engrave. And that's because the glass, it has this distortion because of how the glass is shaped. And that engraving point or focus point is not there. It's actually sometimes lower than that. And that's what I'm showing you right here. So when you look, the surface point for the shot glass is 27.9. That's the focal point. That's when the dots come together. But my engraving point was 26.7. And then when I had 4 shot glasses in there with one of our jigs, the engraving point became 21. So I had to
push down the actual laser, you know, with the down arrow on the control pad a couple times until I found the sweet spot. That meant that I was starting and stopping, starting and stopping. And typically, if you're using a split laser, like some of my other lasers that are more commercial grade, I have a focal stick that I use or focal chain that I use for my UV glass. And then I have a focal chain that I use for solid surfaces, two different ones. And the engraving, again, depth is different. So here you can see in my case, when you start working with your F2 Ultra UV, make sure you document for the product that you're engraving, and I do this for all our products. We basically have, this is our focal point, and then if you are working with glass, what's the glass focal point? And then if you're working with multiple pieces of glass, because the laser has to go out this way, right? It's a fixed laser. What is the focal point then? Because it changes. If I use the 26.7 on the glass just in the center, I will get an engraving on one piece, but I won't get engraving on the other. What will happen is a portion of the glass will get engraved and the other portions will be out. So the only way I could guarantee that every piece got engraved, especially if I'm going to do a batch job and going to do, let's say, 100 shot glasses, is making my focal point 21, and that makes sure that every single glass piece gets engraved. That's just a power tip I wanted to give you. And then over here, you'll find what my settings are. 181, 300, and frequency of 40. That's all I did. And that's how we got that glass. So guys, this is not our last video on the F2 Ultra UV, but I wanted to wrap up the video with this last point, just giving you that tip for glass. I think that the F2 Ultra is a great laser. I'm going to have more videos coming. We have a lot of jigs. We also have filters. We have the brand new lens caddy that you just saw. So there's a lot of stuff that we're developing for UV, and make sure you check out, again, our Etsy store. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And as always, thanks for subscribing and watching, and I'll see you in the next one.